Let me tell you something real, something most men never hear straight. Women don't fall for what you say first. They fall for what you are. You can have the smoothest words, the nicest clothes, the fanciest car, but if your presence is weak, none of that matters. And here's the part she'll never admit out loud. What truly works on every woman is a man who knows his value and refuses to negotiate it. Now, listen carefully. This ain't about manipulation, tricks, or playing games. It's about psychology, human nature. People are drawn to strength, clarity, and purpose. And when a man shows up with those three things, something shifts in the room. She feels it before she understands it. She won't say it, but she responds to it every time. Emotional control is the quiet power that separates a man who reacts from a man who leads. When a man can sit in his emotions without letting them spill into panic, anger, or desperation, his presence immediately feels different. He doesn't raise his voice to be heard, doesn't rush to explain himself, and doesn't feel the need to prove his worth. That calm steadiness creates an invisible authority. People lean in because they sense stability, and stability feels safe. In relationships, safety is more attractive than excitement that comes from chaos. Most men think attraction is built by doing more, saying more, and giving more, but emotional control teaches restraint. It's the ability to pause before responding, to observe instead of reacting, and to choose silence when words would weaken your position. When a man doesn't allow his emotions to control his behavior, he sends a clear signal that his identity is solid. He isn't easily shaken by mood swings, mixed signals, or temporary distance, and that strength naturally increases his value in the eyes of others. Emotional control also protects dignity. A man who can manage disappointment without bitterness and rejection without anger maintains respect, even in uncomfortable moments. He doesn't chase clarity, demand reassurance, or seek validation when things feel uncertain. Instead, he stays grounded in who he is and what he brings to the table. That grounded energy subtly shifts the dynamic, because people respond differently to someone who cannot be emotionally manipulated. When a man is emotionally disciplined, he controls the tempo of interactions. He isn't rushed by fear of loss or driven by the need to be liked. His responses are intentional, measured, and confident. This creates psychological weight behind his actions and words, making them carry more meaning. Emotional control turns presence into influence, silence into strength, and patience into power. Self-respect is the line a man draws between what he accepts and what he refuses to tolerate. When a man values himself, he doesn't chase attention, beg for clarity, or lower his standards just to keep someone interested. He understands that attraction grows from dignity, not desperation. A man who knows his worth doesn't try to convince anyone of it. He lives in a way that makes it evident. That quiet confidence sends a powerful message that his time, energy, and emotions are valuable. Chasing is often misunderstood as effort, but in reality it signals imbalance. When one person over-pursues, they communicate that they are afraid to lose, and fear weakens attraction. Self-respect replaces fear with certainty. A man with standards doesn't rush to respond, doesn't over-explain his intentions, and doesn't tolerate disrespect masked as jokes, silence, or inconsistency. He pays attention to behavior more than words, and he adjusts his investment accordingly without drama or confrontation. Standards are not ultimatums. They are boundaries lived through action. A self-respecting man doesn't argue about his boundaries or threaten to leave to gain control. He simply, removes himself from situations that no longer align with his values. That ability to walk away without anger or resentment increases his psychological value because it shows emotional independence. People instinctively respect those who respect themselves. When a man stops chasing approval, the dynamic shifts. Instead of trying to be chosen, he becomes selective. His presence feels earned rather than guaranteed. This selectiveness creates curiosity and tension because his attention is no longer freely available. Self-respect makes a man unpredictable in the best way, as his behavior is guided by principle rather than emotion. Attraction deepens when a woman realizes she cannot control him through withdrawal, mood shifts, or validation games, and that respect begins to grow naturally. Confidence rooted in self-mastery is one of the most powerful forces a man can possess. It is not the loud, boastful kind of confidence that demands attention. It is quiet, steady, and undeniable. A man who masters himself understands his emotions, controls his reactions, and maintains focus on what truly matters. This kind of confidence comes from knowing who he is, what he wants, and what he will accept in life and relationships. It is a deep, unshakable certainty that doesn't need external validation to survive, and that certainty naturally draws people toward him. Self-mastery allows a man to act with intention rather than impulse. He doesn't overreact to minor slights or let frustration dictate his behavior. He doesn't seek approval through constant reassurance or cling to relationships out of fear. Instead, he approaches interactions with calm awareness, making choices that align with his values and long-term goals. That stability communicates strength without words, creating an invisible authority that others recognize instinctively. People are drawn to this type of confidence because it signals security, reliability, and competence. Confidence rooted in self-mastery also enhances influence. When a man controls himself, he controls the energy around him. His presence becomes magnetic because he is consistent and predictable in his principles, but unpredictable in his depth. He can remain calm in tension, patient in uncertainty, and composed in chaos, which makes others trust his judgment and gravitate toward his leadership. That influence is subtle but powerful, as it affects perception and behavior without manipulation or force. This kind of confidence transforms interactions because it removes desperation, neediness, and insecurity from the equation. A man who has mastered himself does not beg to be seen or heard. He simply is. His calm, grounded energy inspires respect and admiration. His choices reflect clarity rather than confusion, and his presence communicates that he is a man of substance, whose attention and affection are earned, not freely given.